Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in internet shitlords. Check it out, we've got the Invisible College here. This is one of my biggest books. The Wilderlands, this is the smallest printed book that I've ever put out. It was not meant to be a printed book originally, it was meant to be just PDF, but some people wanted it to be in print, and so it got made in print. And then in between, World of the Last Sun, my incredible Gonzo DCC campaign that has just completed its 12th year and running. And Invisible College, by the way, I saw someone was advertising a new Invisible College campaign. So Invisible College is not Call of Cthulhu. It has nothing to do with the Lovecraft mythos. It is not Vampire the Masquerade or something like that. It is a kind of conspiracy thriller spy investigative game that is grounded in hermetic magic, the way hermetic magicians think it works. So there's a secret occult war going on in the background of our lives to determine the spiritual evolution of humanity, and you guys would play agents in that war, trying to stop people who have a totalitarian vision of humanity's future. So if you're kind of tired of all the tentacles, maybe check out Invisible College. It'll be a whole different perspective for you. All right, so getting to our topic, because also I don't have too much time. I have just looked at the third quarter earnings report for Wizards of the Coast, right? And you remember Wizards of the Coast was saying a little while ago that the new D&D, the OneD&D, is the fastest selling of any product. Right? It's very weird corporate lingo there, fastest selling, because it didn't say best selling, it didn't say it made the most money, not the most profitable, it said fastest selling. Nobody understands exactly what that means, but I can tell you now what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean that they made any money off it. It doesn't mean that it's being a success, right? So if you look at the quarter earnings, the interesting thing is it was so telling. Hasbro talked about, their different departments and their different sales, their different divisions. In general, everything is kind of down, but there are some things that are up, mostly in the like the online gaming sort of thing, like Monopoly Go, I think is the only thing that's really doing well for them this time. And so they're doing pretty poorly, but they always try to pretend to make it look like it's everything's fine, right? And this is the notable thing. In the year that they release, and in fact in the quarter, I'm pretty sure, yeah, the profits of the first two of the three OneD&D books would have been showing up in this quarter. And in that quarterly report, D&D does not get mentioned at all. It is as if D&D did not exist, which may very soon be the truth based on what I'm looking at there. So that's obviously telling, right? Because you would think they'd be like, yeah, and we released the 50th anniversary edition of D&D, the new OneD&D, and look at how incredible it's doing. But it's clearly not, because Wizards of the Coast is not doing well. They're down on everything. It mentioned specifically that they're somewhat down on magic, and but I mean, they had a drop in the tabletop gaming area, is what they said. They had a drop of 7%, of which they outlined that 2% of that was magic. So that means the other 5% was Dungeons & Dragons. Which means that Dungeons & Dragons, the new edition, is not only flatlined, but it's actually dropped compared to if they had done nothing. Okay? That's basically the situation that they are at. So everything that I had been talking about regarding the success or failure of this version, it has come true. I had predicted famously, one of the reasons I ended up getting hired as a consultant on 5th edition D&D, on 2014 D&D as it's now being called, was because I had correctly predicted what would happen when 4th edition came out. When 4th edition came out, I predicted they would lose 2/3 of their customer base. And that was basically what happened as a result of them, going full gamist. Now, looking at what we're seeing right now in terms of numbers, looking at, for example, the number of people that they have in making characters in D&D Beyond as opposed to the total number of people in D&D Beyond. And looking at the completely lackluster sales, I'm willing to bet that this is going to be worse than that. This is going to do worse, relatively speaking, than 4th edition did. It's that bad. And it's not that bad of a game exactly, because 4th edition said, well, we're going to make something totally different that didn't actually look or play at all like D&D. But what they've made wrong with the new OneD&D here, there's like 2 major aspects, right? One of which I had predicted, the other one of which I didn't really manage to fully predict, but now in context, it should have been obvious to me. So the predictable one is that they've gone absolutely full woke, right? Like they're full on woke, and to the point that, like I've said before, there are probably more black women in the art of the 3 new OneD&D core books than there are actual black women playing in the hobby. That's how many black women they put into those books when they are a demographic that is almost non-existent. Yeah, and I know, somebody might show up in the comments and go, well, I'm a black woman, I play D&D. Yeah, well, okay, you are, but how many others are there, right? Like, it is one of the least represented demographics. But they needed to put it everywhere, right? I'm not just singling that out because, of course, they have all kinds of other stuff everywhere, right? Like, there's an LGBT character in every image, doesn't matter which one it is, right? That's the third kobold from the right is polyamorous or something, and everything has to show a diversity, and of course, white males can only really be depicted as either buffoons or villains, right? And this was, and then there's the safety tools, all of that stuff I predicted, right? All the soft changes, right? The fact that alignment is basically done away with, that, it doesn't really, there is no good or evil in the game anymore, in any meaningful sense, because the ideas of good and evil are oppressive, right? All of that stuff I took in mind, right? Now, the thing I didn't really take in mind was that they decided to add on a number of rules expansions. They have vastly more subclasses. That I kind of did predict, that there would be more bloat, right? But beyond that, this isn't just bloat. It's not just that it adds a lot to the game. It's that they've made some stuff that changes the way that you relate to the game, right? So like and a lot of the stuff, and I mean, Mike Merle said this too the other day in his interview. He didn't actually say this. He didn't say this explicitly, but I'll say it explicitly. That a lot of the stuff that they've added on is stuff that while 5th edition was being designed, we specifically discarded as saying, no, this is too bulky, right? We had a motto that I came up with, right? Which is just dare to simplify, right? That at every moment we should look and say, is there a simpler way to do this that still works, right? And if there is, then the complex thing has to be put aside. Because the whole point was to make a game that would be instantly appealing to casuals, that a casual gamer would not have to gain rules mastery to be able to start playing, and would generally not be at a terrible disadvantage compared to someone who was a rules lawyer, right? It's the opposite of what 3rd edition was, where in 3rd edition, the designers intentionally set it up to give rewards to people who are fanatical rules lawyers of the game, all right? So that is the change, and that change, I think, is also something that a lot of people are not enjoying. Because now we've heard some, not a lot, because there's not a lot of people playing, but we heard some play reports of people saying, no, this isn't the same. This isn't the same as 5th edition, and it's much worse because the amount of fiddling we have to do regarding rules stuff, instead of just saying what my character wants to do and doing it, is really bad, right? Like they've gone from a super casual game to a game where you have to think of the game not in of the rules, not in terms of just what makes sense to do in the world, which was the whole point of the 5th edition rules. Hey, it's Domino. But she almost attacked my phone there. She's off doing her own thing. She's very photogenic, but I don't think she knows how to play to the camera yet. So, like this is Where was I? Oh yeah, this was what it was meant to be, right? That it was going to be really, really easy for people to just say, well, I want to try this, and then you try it, right? You get advantage or you get disadvantage or whatever, and then there you go, right? But now they've added more structured rules, which always ends up creating barriers, right? Because if you say, well, with this special feat, you can do this thing, right? Like you can jump and kick someone while you attack, right? That means nobody who doesn't have that feat or that power could possibly ever do that, right? So that has to be put into, like, it becomes an exception instead of something that people can attempt. So there's all kinds of, like, when you add complexity, you also limit the options that people can have without going through that route of complexity. If you define something, the more you define something, the more that something then has to be done in only that defined way, right? And that is one of the I think a big problem too. But and the reason I should have known it, I kind of made a slightly erroneous guess, right? Because I said, well, there's nobody there who knows game design well enough to actually make meaningful changes to the rules. And that's true, right? None of the people there are really qualified to design a D&D game. However, there was already a lot of material that was there from before of optional rules and things like that. And there are people who are basically midwits who are desperate to try to claim their bit in improving the game itself. And so the fact that they don't know what they're doing wouldn't stop them, right? That was the issue. And I thought that corporate would stop them, right? Because I didn't, but that's stupid of me. Because corporate, clearly, one thing we have learned over the last few years is that corporate clearly neither understands nor gives a damn about Dungeons and Dragons and the Dungeons and Dragons hobby, right? They just want it to make money. They don't know anything about it, how to do it, how to handle it, right? So I'm predicting that they're going to lose, that what we've seen right now, 80-20 is a big theme in this year. You can tell, right? Because, the Democrats are down to 20% approval rating after the election, right? And there's a whole bunch of issues now that the American public are putting at an 80-20 margin, right? And most of them are ones where the 80% is going towards, the anti-woke, and the 20% is all woke crap, right? Which is very interesting. And I think somehow that's happened here, because what we saw in D&D Beyond is that only 20% at most, it could be less because there's obviously people doubling up and adding more stuff there. It could be less, but 20% at most of people, oh, she's curious now, that were playing 5e are going to move to OneD&D, are going to move to the 2025 edition. And so that is a monumental, colossal failure, right? Like, that's worse than 4th edition. They're doing worse than 4th edition, I think. This is my speculation, but the quarterly earnings report doesn't show any benefit from having made this new edition, right? So it's very clear that something's horribly wrong, right? And all of these claims that are being put out as like publicity are just made up, right? It's not happening for them. Okay. All right. Well, that's basically what I wanted to report to you today. If you like this video, hit like, share it with everyone, and please check out all of my products, stuff like the Invisible College and my other games, and in particular, check out the Pundit Files in the Red Room store. You just click the More button in the description, and there'll be links to all of my products, right? Including like Sword and Caravan, which is medieval authentic role-playing in the third Crusade and the Silk Road, Lion and Dragon, Baptism of Fire, medieval authentic role-playing books, the Old School Companion and the Old School Companion 2, and all kinds of other stuff that you'll be able to find there. But check out all of those. Check out especially, though, the Red Room store, where it has the Pundit Files, where there's a new Pundit Files issue every couple of weeks. And the latest one is Chort Bunker of the Ancients, which is a kind of Barrier Peak type dungeon crawl adventure set in the Chort region of the World of the Last Sun. But you can actually, because it's a self-contained, it's just basically the dungeon adventure itself, you could like put that into any setting where there's a kind of desert wasteland area, basically, it would still be able to work, right? It would be it's pretty adaptable. Let's put it that way. So you can check that one out. It's a great adventure, and it's $3.50, just like every other Pundit Files issues. There's like 29 now, 28 now. So there's 27 other issues if that doesn't sound good to you, right? Check them all out at the Red Room Store. And while you're there, check out the Red Room's products. This is not a paid advertisement or anything like that. It's just that the Red Room are good people and they make excellent games. So yeah, do that. And until next time, currently smoking, just lit it. This is a Neerup Cuddy plus Argento Roots.